everyone, my name is Blissful Melissa, and here we are once again reading cringy stories I wrote in middle school and high school. This is episode 2 or part 2, I guess. Oh man, it's been a hot second, but I figured it was time to read another one. Now this one is quite long. Okay, it's not that long. It's only 23 pages long. But compared to the last one, it seems a little longer. So this might be split into 2 parts, maybe. Oh, man. This one is by far the cringiest, but I figured we might as well just jump right into it. It's called The Quest. No idea why. Yeah, this one was definitely a middle school one as well. Probably like 8th grade, actually 9th grade, probably. Now that I think about it, oh my gosh, this one, I read this one, I specifically remember reading this one on the phone to my friend Annalise, and I barely could read it. I was crying, I was laughing so hard, she was crying, she was laughing so hard. You'll know exactly what part. I'll be lucky if I can like say it, okay? We're gonna jump right in. Are you ready? So this is The Quest by yours truly. There's the moment like before you read it, it's like the cringe just hits you. But okay, we're just gonna read it. I stood in the ashes of my house. People wept and hugged family members. There was still a small clump of burning debris. I never imagined myself in this position. You know what I mean? You always see people's house burned down, and so many people were killed or almost no one was touched. Well, how'd you like to be the only one who lived? Chapter 1. Something about prologues, man. I was obsessed with them. I'm still obsessed with them. Don't know why. My entire apartment building burnt to the ground. Every single person died, including my 4 brothers and parents. Smoke detectors didn't work 90% of the time, so the oven fire that could have easily been harmless if parents wouldn't have been passed out from being drunk, or at least that's what the police said, became a tragedy. Just like to say I spelled tragedy with a T and there's no D. Looking around at all of the mourning friends and relatives, it made me wonder what's going through their minds. Those people still have family members and friends to keep their company. They still have all of their belongings and treasures. I have nothing but the clothes on my back. The one thing that those deceased have that I don't... Sorry about that, my parents called up. Okay. Those people still have family members and friends to keep them company. They still have all of their belongings and treasures. I have nothing but the clothes on my back. The one thing that those deceased have that I don't are people who care. Someone to cry over their dead bodies. I guess I can say I'm jealous of the dead. In all honesty, I would rather be the only one to die. I'd trade places with all of them just for somebody to care. Maybe that's the reason I'm not crying. Or as the paramedics say, I'm in shock. The paramedics tried taking me to the emergency room just in case, but I refused and told them something about how I wanted to be here as long as I could because of my parents or something dumb along those lines. I really just wanted to avoid all the people who would be there around me. Where I'm headed after this, I don't really know or care. As long as I'm not sent to some germ-infected orphanage, I'll be fine. It's bad enough at the apartment building with sickly old people and booger-picking little kids everywhere. Sorry. Good Lord. Like, okay, I'll keep my commentary to myself. That was also another reason I didn't want to go to the hospital. All those sick people are there. If you haven't noticed, I hate people and absolutely cannot stand germs. But I've learned to live with it like the rest of my life. People offered me their shoulders to cry on, but I quickly had to refuse. Firefighters wanted to hold me in their arms to cry with, but it didn't happen. Someone grabbed my shoulder. It was warm and soft. When I turned to see who it was, I made eye contact with a fairly young firefighter who had been standing there quite a while by the look in his eyes. I slightly pulled away, but he wouldn't allow me to turn away. "Are you all right, ma'am?" he asked in a deep voice. At first, I was shocked to hear such a low voice from such a young man. "Yes, I'm fine, thank you." Then I turned away. "Sorry, but I can't allow you to stay here any longer. The cleanup crew will be here shortly, and they didn't want anybody around until they got the major stuff pretty much pulled out." His blue eyes looked familiar. The cringe is creeping on. I stared at his face in general. Only for a few moments, though. I was afraid that maybe he did recognize me. I quickly looked away and stared blankly at the ground, trying to avoid his gaze. "Vanessa, I'll ride with you down to the hospital if you'd like." His eyes were the only eyes I saw loving. The only eyes that touched me. It was almost like his light blue eyes were looking directly into my heart. "I don't think it'd be necessary for you," I started. "You don't have to give me a long speech how it wouldn't be right for me to ride with you. I was only offering some friendly company." He turned, looking over his shoulder. He continued, "Either way, you still have to go to the hospital in less than 10 minutes. I followed him back to where the morning people still stood and knelt next to each other. He led me to the police car with an officer sitting in the driver's seat. The officer motioned for me to sit in the front. I sat in the back. "Ben, I want you to ride with me," I whispered softly. His smile lit up the entire mood. As he sat down next to me and closed the door, the officer started rambling. Pretty much just ignored him and only focused on Ben, who's the firefighter, if you didn't figure that out. So sassy. The trip was pretty short, considering we were only 3 miles away. As we got out of the car, the officer spoke. "So you two know each other pretty well?" I stuttered nervously as I glanced at the ground. "Well," I said sheepishly. "Sorry, I need to collect myself. The part is coming up, if you can't tell." Also, this is just like the cringiest story, and I don't know why this still exists today. Why it just needs to go like a bird forever. "I mean, where'd you two meet? This isn't your first chat." Ben noticed that I was stuttering, so he helped me along. "Oh goodness, it's been so long, I don't quite remember." He trailed on. He wasn't completely lying when he said it's been a while, because it's true. When I was 6 years old, I started going to the food pantry for food. He was 8 at the time, and he helped his mom pass out food. Age, man. Age is the thing. So as you can see, I didn't want the entire world knowing I go to the food pantry once a month. "We met through a friend," I blurted out. "That's nice," he said, walking us into the hospital. "Follow me this way, please." I stopped. The smell, the people, the germs. I couldn't move past the automatic doors. I hadn't really noticed I stopped directly where the doors were. They slid shut quickly, and the next thing I knew, I was lying on the dirty tile floor. I instantly threw up, which made me gag to think I was lying in it. "Vanessa, are you all right?" Vanessa, are you all right? Ben asked, kneeling by my side. "Fresh air," I mumbled, as he picked me up and set me on a bench just outside the door. I can't believe I just threw up all over the hospital floor. My mind raced as I stared off into the distance. Faint voices brought me back to my senses. I physically cannot read the next part. The words. "Here's a wheelchair for her," a kind woman said. Good Lord. "Thank you," said the officer. "Ben, why don't you help me get her strapped in? The doctor will want to take a look at her." I cannot read anymore. Okay, we can do this. I was lowered into a gray wheelchair and got my waist strapped in. "Get me out of this. Do you know how many ill people have been put in this?" I started to undo the strap when the officer grabbed my wrist and hooked a cuff on it, and then did my other hand in both ankles. Let's just picture this for a second. They freaking strapped her into a wheelchair because she threw up. Logic? Where is the logic? Like, doesn't make sense. Also, Tobi's here with us. He wants to cringe. All right. So they cuffed her ankles or her arms, then both ankles. "I'm sorry," Ben whispered as he put a crisscross strap over and under my shoulders. But it's for your own good. His eyes were worried and looked a bit upset. I didn't have time to ask why, but I had a pretty good guess. My entire body was shaking. I clamped my eyes tightly together and tried to quit thinking about where I was. People's voices echoed around me. I ignored all sounds, even the familiar ones. Slowly, everything faded away. Nothing's wrong with her, a woman said. Are you sure? Ben's voice was close. Yes. Now, why she threw up, I may have a solution for that. I slightly opened my eyes to see Ben sitting on the edge of my bed, and a woman with a long white jacket. Her eyes were very dark in color. I only noticed that because she was very light complected. Looks like she's awake now, the doctor smiled. How do you feel? Well, Tobi, do you have anything to drink? I laughed a bit while Ben helped me up. At my words, the doctor left the room. You didn't answer her question, so I'll ask again. How do you feel? He patted my ankle slightly. It's ACLE. Assuming it's ankle. I feel terrible, actually. Please don't tell her, though. I can't stay here any longer than I have been. I felt my hand shake as the door opened. Here you go, sweetie. Yeah? She handed me a glass of ice-cold water. Thanks. I took the water and drank almost all of it. Ben smiled at me while I handed her the glass back. We made eye contact for a moment. How do you feel? She asked. Much better, thank you. May I go now? I was ready to get out of there. I want to do one more test before you leave, to make sure everything's okay, she smiled. Fine, though, really. I tried to make myself smile. Well, I did, but it wasn't very convincing. Just one little blood test is all I need. She got up and walked towards the door. If you'll follow me, I can get it done in a flash. Great, I thought. Could my day get any worse? Obviously, I said it out loud this time. Vanessa, it'll be over before you know it, and I'll be here the whole time. His smile was reassuring. We reached a room where a short, plump woman was repairing a needle. Now, Vanessa, you go in, and Ben, you'll be waiting out here because of space problems. Then she walked away, leaving us standing there in the hall. I guess I'll be right outside the door. Okay, I slowly turned into the room. Hello. Oh, hello, sweetie. How are you doing this wonderful day? She was so bubbly, it kind of creeped me out. It's been better. Oh, let's not worry about it then. Now this won't hurt a bit, she grinned. The rubber band around my arm made it feel like it was going to fall off, but I knew it wasn't because I felt the woman's icy cold hands. Hold real still now. I closed my eyes tightly. The needle pierced my skin, making me shift uneasily in the chair. Almost done. It seemed like ages before the words came. All done. See? It wasn't that bad. Now was it? She pulled the band off my arm. Now we'll have the results here in a day or so, depending on how many we have. Okay? You're free to go. Have a wonderful, spectacular rest of the day, she smiled. I'll try, you too. When I opened the door, there stood Ben, right where I left him. How'd it go? He pushed some loose black hairs out of my face. Fine, can we just get out of here? I don't know how long I'll last. Well, the doctor said, just take me home, please. I froze. There wasn't a home for me to go back to. An hour later, I was walking back into the waiting room. Felt everyone Did I skip a page? Hold up. I did skip a page. Okay, hold on a second. Just take me home, please. I froze. There wasn't a home for me to go back to. It's okay, Vanessa. He hugged me. That'll be our next stop after the police station. Police station? I didn't do anything, though. They just want to ask you some questions, that's all. We walked out of the office building quickly. After our 10-minute long elevator ride, we were ready to leave. 10 minutes? Okay. Shouldn't comment. 10 minutes is a long elevator rider. And considering they were, on maybe like the 4th floor? Just saying. The police station was only a block away from the hospital. Ben didn't try and make conversation on our way. He just quietly walked, looking forward. When we arrived, it seemed like 100 people were there, most of them for the same reason. Shouts came from hallways and even at the front desk. One woman walked out of her room screaming and started pointing to me. "She's the one who killed my baby." She walked towards me. "Finally, have you under control so you can question you. Justice for my baby." She laughed in a crazed way. Everyone had fallen silent when she pointed at me. There were a few gasps, but mainly silence. She wasn't the one who started the fire. She wasn't even home. Ben stood between the woman and me. How can you accuse an innocent girl of such a crime? He gritted his teeth. There's water damage on this page. Only the police can say how innocent she is. She looked around Ben and smirked at me. "Hopefully they'll be wise and put you in jail for at least 20. Enough, an officer said in the hall. "Vanessa, will you join me in my office, please?" "Yes, sir," I whispered quietly, quickly getting out away from the dagger-throwing eyes of the people around me. An hour later, I was walking back into the waiting room. I felt everyone's eyes turn towards me. "For all of you who waited to hear the results, here they are. She's innocent." Then he turned away and disappeared into his office. "Innocent? Then who do you suppose did it?" screamed the woman. Ben grabbed my arm and pulled me out of there. Sweat dripped down his forehead. "So everything went all right?" "Yep." I looked at the ground. Why did that woman want to get me punished? "I don't know. You weren't even there when it happened." He walked to the bench nearby. I quietly followed. "What if I told you I was there when the fire happened?" "That can't be." He looked at me. "Did you tell the officer that?" "Yes, I told him everything." "How'd you survive?" I can't remember. I lied right there to him. I could have told him how I did it. He'd never believe me. "All right, why don't we grab a cab and head to the adoption center?" He lightly smiled. I only nodded my head. All right, that's the end of chapter 1. Sorry, my phone came up with a low battery. So that's the end of chapter 1. There's still a second chapter. Sorry if it was choppy. It felt so choppy reading it. Like, the handwriting is smudged. There's water damage on the page. It's not the best to be reading, but there's only... Okay, there's still a few pages left. So I will, I'll post chapter 2 to this, probably on a Tuesday video. I'll just edit up because it shouldn't take that long. But I hope you all enjoyed it. I've tried to keep the cringing to a minimum. Hi, Toby. And I've tried to keep the side comments to myself, but sometimes you just can't resist, okay? Like the spellings, oh, my spelling was awful. I'm like, how did I pass English? Like, looking at this, there are so many errors. I notice I do that a lot though. Thanks to autocorrect on like Word and Google Docs, it doesn't happen as much, but my mind thinks faster than I can type or write, and so words will be like 2 letters long. And then like autocorrect will like fill in what it is, so I don't really notice unless it's a word and autocorrect is like, I don't even know what you're trying to do right now. But it's very evident here. I leave off lots of letters at the ends of words because I'm thinking I'm just writing, and then I just don't, like, lots of D's are gone if it's like remembered or smirked, words like that. Hey, tiny. A lot of that's gone. And also it's just so faded on these pages. It's wild. Like, I can barely read it. Anyways, that was part 2 of reading cringy stories. If you enjoyed it, let me know down below. I love to hear your feedback if you also cringed while listening, because we all know I was cringing so hard on the inside. And if you did enjoy this video, make sure to give a like and subscribe if you are interested in more videos like this, or house tours, which will be coming up soon. I'll be moving in probably in December, definitely before Christmas. But I hope you all enjoyed it, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye!